Hello and welcome to another D&D Stories. I am your host, TheWriter. This is the show where I sit here and regale you with all the tabletop gaming stories and remember when something cool happens. So today, we return once more to the adventures of Mattius the Prowler in Oceanrim. So, after Mattius returned the Golden Seal and was given membership into the Thieves Guild, also known as the Group, he was right away given a new mission. Now, if you recall, Mattius told me, the DM, that he wanted to prestige into Assassin. And after X number of home burglaries and sneaking around and getting enough money, getting enough XP, he'd reached enough skill ranks and all the other proper stuff to hopefully become an assassin. Now, I think one of the other things that you have to do to become an assassin is to kill someone for no other reason than to become an assassin. You know, somebody's paying you to do it. So I said, okay, Mattius, in order to do that, you have to basically take a contract job. You have to say, yes, I will kill this person for money and not for any other reason. And he goes, okay. And I go, you know, you're over in evil territory already, so you may eventually drift into chaotic evil doing this. And he goes, what does that mean? And I go, well, there are some larger churches that will physically repel you by magic. Paladins will just have a sixth sense to not trust you. Clerics of a certain type may not want anything to have to do with you. You know, certain shops won't serve you, certain taverns, you know. If you're by gaming terms and by character terms, you know, you're basically going to be an evil villain. You know, it's one thing to rob somebody's house. You know, it's another to just kill somebody for money. You're on the trek to evil doing this. And he thought about it for a while, and he said, okay, that's kind of the string I was getting into anyway, stealing from people and robbing people and belting a fucker for his wallet and stuff like that. As long as Lilia never finds out, I should be okay. I mean, Mattius isn't exactly a church-going goody two-shoes, so if we're going to make Assassin, we're going to do this right. So, Mattius gets contacted by the Group, also known as the Thieves Guild. It says that they have a prime target for him if he wants to graduate from, like, cut purse and thief up to the coveted rank of Assassin. And if I remember right, in 3.5, one of the best things that Assassins could do was target study. And it basically meant if you could watch your target for, like, a minute or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you could shoot them with a bow and arrow, or you could stab them, and it wouldn't matter how much health they have, they would just instantly die. That was like the best thing ever. And assassins that wander around with adventuring parties usually don't get to do that because they have to hang back for 20 rounds, and by the time 20 rounds of fighting is over, everything's usually dead anyway. But when a rogue runs around by himself and has high enough, you know, move silently and sneak and hide like Mattius does, well, he's going to have plenty of opportunity for that. But he has to achieve the rank of Assassin first. He is a Jedi, but not a Jedi Master. Or rather, he's a Sith, but not a Sith Lord. Not yet. But he is well on his way into darkness, as we will soon find out. And he meets with the lady with the crimson cloak, which for a while he thought, he got this idea into his head that the lady in the crimson cloak was Lilia. And I go, no, she's got like red curly hair and like a hood, and she's built completely different than Lilia. There's no way these two women could be the same person. He's like, oh, phew, that would have been some really stupid dramatic irony. And I go, okay. But one of my favorite ways to mess with Mattius was to give him expectations, because he was a seasoned RPG veteran like me. except for in tabletop games. Give him expectations and then take them away, so he was always on his toes because things didn't happen how he thought they were going to happen. He goes, the lady on the rooftop is not Lilia. You're sure of this? And I go, yeah, pretty much. And in fact, you get to see this woman's face as she meets you for, I guess, lunch or brunch or something at one of the taverns that you're usually not around to talk to you about the group, which is a public way of talking about the Thieves Guild or the Assassins Guild or whatever you want to call that. It says that the group has a new enemy, someone called the Engineer. And he goes, the Engineer? He goes, yes. This woman is apparently about to meet up with Oceanrim's city guard to deliver magical weapons and artifacts to them. And he goes, what kind? He says, our intelligence says that she is creating living suits of armor. And he goes, like Full Metal Alchemist, he's hollow on the inside. And he goes, yeah, but without the human soul. It's like a golem or a mannequin or an automaton. It's enchanted to move and follow simple commands. And he goes, oh, that doesn't sound good. And she goes, yes, it would suck to be us here in the group if suddenly there was one of these living armor automatons on every corner, and a city guard can just whistle and this thing will come running and come fight for them, and they don't feel pain, they can see in the dark, they can't be reasoned with, they can't be bribed, they don't eat, they don't sleep, they don't stop unless you destroy them. And if you know your backstabbing rules, Mattius, you can't backstab a golem. None of your rogue abilities are going to work on these guys. So the only thing we can do is destroy the woman that is creating them. And he goes, yeah, that's a good idea. Because, you want a cop on every corner, but if all the cops on every corner can see in the dark and can't be bribed, etc., it's going to suck to be Mattius real soon. So he's like, all right, that is a really good target. And she gives him like a coded contract that says, 500 gold, kill this lady, within X number of time. And she gives him a map to her location. Apparently somebody followed her home. She's well outside the city, up in a nearby mountain or hill, a set of hills in a nearby wood. And it would take like 3 days on foot to get there. But they're only sending one person because they don't know what kind of gadgets and doodads. If she's got living suits of armor running around, then Lord knows what like her homestead or her cave or her lair or whatever it is going to be like. There could be tricks and traps and pressure plates and goodness knows what else. We need somebody who's got some experience, but wouldn't be like a huge loss if they died. And he's like, oh, really? He's, well, if you complete this contract, you'll be able to graduate from cutpurse to assassin. And that's what you always wanted, right, Mattius? You wanted the high-paying jobs. Well, here's your second initiation test to raise up in the ranks among the group. And Mattius kind of strokes his chin for a while, and he goes, yeah, you're right. All right, so he takes the map, he takes the contract, and he goes, you have X amount of time, go there, destroy her, come back. That's all you got to do. It's very simple. And she leaves. And Mattius goes, did I recognize her? Did I know her face at all? And he goes, no, you've never seen her before. After all the little mini missions that he'd been doing for the Thieves Guild, steal this, replace that, go threaten this person. He'd raised up a few levels in the Thieves Guild, but this was like the first big mission they'd given him, so he wanted to do a good job. But all the while, this woman had been standing on a rooftop or standing on a fence or like out of his reach. He'd never been able to see her face until today, and she was just, a redheaded lady with freckles and small glasses on her nose and stuff. Like, nothing really conspicuous about her. She wasn't covered with scars and carrying 9 weapons or anything. She could have been anybody out on the street, which was the point. So Mattius goes shopping. He gets, he gets smoke sticks, caltrops, flash powder. He grabs some pocket sand from the beach. He gets all like his rogue stuff together because he's about to dungeon crawl. So he gets like, what else did he get? He got some upgraded thieves tools. It was like thieves tools +1 or thieves tools +3 or something like that. And when you're sitting at my table, all your stuff stacks. So if you got like gloves of disable lock and then you've got thieves tools +3, those would stack together and you could reach that much higher. And plus he was by himself, so it's not like he was overpowered compared to anybody else. So he gets all of his stuff together and he's like, all right, I'm going to go. I was like, do you want a horse? And he goes, no, not really. So he goes, he tells Lilia, his girlfriend, that he is going off on business for a few days, or rather a week, I guess. 3 days there and 3 days back, plus any delays. So I guess about a week. He goes and he kisses Lilia goodbye, and she is, again, still none the wiser of what Mattius does for a living. In fact, they had a conversation at one point. I don't remember, like, where in the story, but, like, while he was still doing small missions, Lilia asked him, Mattius, what do you do for a living? You're always so well-dressed in those leathers. And, how often do you have to use that dagger on your hip? Are you dealing with shady people, my love? And he goes, no, I'm... And she kind of continues on. It's like, you always seem to have money, too, to take me out or to bring me little baubles or flowers or things. You're not some cut-purse highwayman, are you? And he goes, no, of course not. And he rolls it, and he goes, I'm a buyer for a large company. She goes, a buyer? And he goes, yes, if you run a store and you need, like... I'm just going to throw a real-world reference. Like, if you're running, like, a department store and it's Christmas time, they have to send somebody out to go buy, 50 snow globes and 50 really ugly sweaters and 50 plastic snowmen and stuff like that to set up for their winter display. Somebody has to go out and buy those things. So here in Oceanrim, I work for a certain company, which will remain nameless for their privacy, and I buy a lot of stuff for them and bring it into their store, and I get to keep the rest because I do the legwork. And he rolls it, and, she does sense motive, and she believes him. So, in Lilia's eyes, Mattius is a wealthy, like, company buyer. So, he kisses her goodbye, tells her he's off to go buy something, kind of expensive that takes a while to move. And she goes, oh, what is it? I go, it's, and then he decides to tell the truth. He's like, it's a suit of armor. Something big and heavy. It takes a while. This person lives out in the boonies, blah, blah, blah. And, because he's technically telling the truth for most of that, her sense motive falls under his lies. So he tells her goodbye, and they hug, and they embrace, they kiss. Their romance is kind of moving along, doing pretty well. And he leaves. And I go, Mattius, do you want a horse? And he goes, no, I'll just, if it's 3 days on foot and 3 days back, that's fine. All I really have to do is buy rations and, like, flint and tinder to start campfires. But Mattius leaves Oceanrim, and he goes out into the woods and up into the hills, which are not as far away as Pleasant Grove, but still, like, inland. And he is very concerned that he's going to be jumped by, like, the local wildlife. And he goes, are there, like, panthers or displacer beasts, bobcats, bears, anything out here? And I go, well, you see, like, a squirrel. And I'm like rolling dice just to make him nervous. There's like a squirrel and some birds, and there's a red-tailed hawk, and it's a temperate forest. There's not a lot of exotic bullshit that's gonna come and chew your ass off. I'm sorry. Plus, just as a DM, I find normal animals to kind of be a waste of time. It's like if a druid isn't summoning them into battle, I just kind of leave them off to one side. Like if a pack of wolves goes by 4 people that are armed to the teeth, they're probably going to pick easier prey. But but even like Mattius by himself, he decides he's gonna like sleep up in trees and stuff so that nothing, like no wolves jump on him, no bears that can't climb trees. Now that I think about it, because some bears can climb trees, but he thinks he'll be safer up a tree, so he sleeps in a tree. And I go, okay, give me climb, give me acrobatics, give me all these different rolls to make sure he doesn't fall out of the tree onto his face. And he consumes rations. He doesn't run into anything bad, and he makes it all the way out to his destination. I say, Mattius, it looks almost like a bunker door. And he goes, bunker door? Like something out of Fallout? And I go, kinda. That's kind of anachronistic, but it is a metal door with like the studs all around it and a big like turn crank, like a big valve wheel to turn to open it and stuff like that. It looks like this was like the entrance to a cave, but there's like cement around it, and there's bits of metal. There's a little like stoop here that has one step on it, and this metal door, like there's not really a keyhole here for you to pick, so it's sealed up pretty tight. What are you gonna do? And Mattius kind of strokes his chin for a while, and he goes, well, if I go inside, she's probably got all kinds of gadgets and gizmos to defend herself with. If she's making living armor that's going to help out the local guard, I'd rather not go inside, because Lord knows what else she has in there. She could be building like a freeze ray or a lightning rod that she pokes people with and they melt, or something horrible like that. Maybe I can get her to come outside. And I go, what are you going to do? He goes, don't worry, I know a knock spell. And I go, a knock spell? And this is something he had heard from me, and I heard it from Noah and TtheWriter. And he goes, don't worry, I know a knock spell. And he walks up and he knocks on the door. And I was like, that's stupid enough to work. So I look into the first room of this dungeon that I have laid out. Or this bunker, rather. It's not a dungeon, it's a bunker. And much to Mattius' surprise, the valve crank starts turning, and he kind of steps back like he's getting ready to stab whoever it is, like leaning to one side of the door frame. So when it swings open, he can just attack whoever comes out. And a set of plate mail kind of leans out. He can see there's no eyes. There's nothing like inside the helmet. And it kind of leans out and it looks around for a minute. And Mattius is like, I take my baton and I knock him over the head. Bam! And Mattius knocks the head off of this living armor. And it goes tumbling across the ground. And as he does this, the living armor pulls back inside the doorway, closes it, and turns the crank again so it's sealed closed. And Mattius looks around like, shit. And he goes, what do I do with this? He's got this helmet now. I was like, what do I do with this? I was like, it's a plate helmet. I mean, you don't have any of the feats or abilities needed to use heavy armor, so it would probably give you minuses if you wore it. But otherwise, he looks inside. It's marked up with like runes and dwarvish writing and all kinds of like magic circles and geometry that's just all over the inside. And he turns it over, and you can see like a slight glow inside the visor, inside where the eyes should be. It's like, it's still alive. And he throws it into the underbrush. And, not sure what else he should do, he goes up again, and he knocks on the door, and the headless suit of armor opens the door again, and he slips in past it. Like, it's like 2 or 3 feet taller than he is. It's big. And he slips in past it, and it moves about like it's looking around again, and then it closes the door and locks it, and then it goes and it kind of stands against the wall again. And Mattius is like, what did I do to it? It's like, well, you knocked its head off, so you may have like interrupted its programming, or maybe it can only follow simple commands. Like if if somebody knocks on the door, open it. Defend yourself if they attack you. Escort them in if they show us the symbol of Oceanrim or whatever it happens to be. But you broke a piece off. So now he's just kind of the door guy. And Mattius kind of looks him over. He like gets up on his tippy toes and he leans and he can see like the inside of the shell of the breastplate. And again, it's marked with magic runes, magic circles, geometry, and math, and like blood runes, and all kinds of weird stuff inside that are making this empty suit of armor move around by itself. Like, it's not possessed. It's not necromancy where there's like the souls of the damned are moving around inside this thing. It's basically a robot without any parts inside. And he goes, this is really intricate. I wonder how long these take to make. And I go, well, it's a wondrous item, so probably a very long time. Because, like, I've looked into how long it takes to make, like, a clockwork dragon or any of the other, like, small automata. They take a long time and a lot of money to make, so a living suit of armor would probably take a very long time to make. But this woman is apparently mass-producing them, so she must be very skilled or well invested in, or both. And Mattius goes, oh, okay. So he comes up to a T intersection, and one of the best ways to mess with a player is to give them black and white tile in a hallway and not have anything in it. So he is, of course, very cautious, like, I only walk on the white tiles, or I only walk on the black tiles. He kind of argues with himself. He's looking for traps. There's finished suits of armor, lining the walls like inside a castle where you see the suit of armor just kind of standing there on display. He is dead certain that all of them are going to spring to life and tear him in half, but none of them move. And none of the tiles have pressure plates on them that he can see. The torches in the sconces are lit with, like, bioluminescence. There's no fire in here. They're not, like, flame torches. They're like if you went down into a cave and got bioluminescent mushrooms and then put them in a jar and then put a jar on a stick and then set it in a sconce. It was more like that. So it was like a greenish blue kind of light. And I go, okay, are you going left or are you going right? And he goes, I'll go left. So he goes left, and he goes all the way down to a series of private chambers, like a bedroom, a small bathroom, things like that. And he goes in, and he peers around, like his target might be asleep. This might be easier than he thought. And he kind of pushes the door a little, looks around. She's not home. And there's a wardrobe, an armoire, a bed, a bedside table, a holy book, little bit of jewelry in a jewelry box. And it's like, oh, jewelry box. And he opens it up, and I go, oh, it's silver, it's pewter, it's quartz, it's flashy, but not worth a lot. And he goes, all right. I empty it into my pouch. So he turns this jewelry box upside down. It's like, okay, that's like 27 gold worth of jewelry and a silver necklace that's probably worth like 15 gold. Like, drop in the bucket. Oh well. And he goes over to the wardrobe and he pulls the wardrobe out, and I go, okay, it's mostly like work attire. It's like thick leather. There's lots of gloves that have seen heat and stress. There's a couple of dresses. He's like, I take out one of the dresses and I go, it's a dress. And he goes, is it a nice dress? I go, it's not your size. He goes, damn it. I was like, don't put the dress on, please. Like, I put the dress back, fine. And he looks around for like a diary or anything like that, but no such luck. So he steals all the jewelry, he checks out the clothes. This woman must be quite short, Mattius, because if you kind of hold the dress out and then set it to where the skirts are on the floor, she's maybe 2/3 your height. And Mattius is actually quite short for a half-elf. And he goes, well, she might be like a dwarven woman. So he paws around for a while. I go, don't check her underwear drawer. He's like, if she's got a huge cup size, she'd be a dwarf. And if she's flat-chested, she might be a halfling. I was like, that doesn't even begin to make sense. He pulls out a bra, and he goes, oh, dwarf. And I was like, God damn it, Mattius. Oh, fine. You figure out through her bust size and the height of her clothes, she's more than likely a dwarf. He's like, yes, know thy enemy. And I was like, you're an ass. He's like, I'm being clever. Shut up. And he looks around to see if maybe, again, if she's got like a diary or some hidden treasure, heirloom, anything. And I go, you find a jade comb in her bedside table. And he goes, jade, that's worth something. And he stuffs it in his bag. It's probably worth like, 10, 20 gold at the most. But, he's picking through somebody's stuff, doing the thief thing. He's happy. And he checks himself out in her standing mirror. He's got his silvery belt with the M emblazed on it. He's got his sneaking leathers. He kind of floofs his hair just a little bit just to make sure he looks good while he's on the job. I was like, you're an idiot. He's like, at least I didn't put one of the dresses on. Shut up. You found... I basically broke down and told him. I was like, you found pretty much all there is to find in here. Okay, I checked the bathroom. And I go, there's a tub, and there's some internal plumbing, which is unusual for like this era. So it might be homemade if it's like attached to a lake somewhere that's above this location. It might be gravity fed. He goes, oh, that's interesting. So he turns the water on, he turns it off. It's like ice cold. And the tub is metal, and there's a place under it to... I guess start a fire or something. Of course, I guess you really wouldn't want to do that because it would heat the metal too much, but what do I know? We're just kind of going by the seat of our pants. It's kind of steampunk, but not quite. This woman is clever enough to have hot baths every night and to light an enclosed space without using flames. So she's pretty smart, whoever she is. And, of course, he leans out of the bathroom after a while and makes sure that none of the suits of armor have moved around while he wasn't looking. Because, again, there's like 20 of these things, like lining the hallway in pairs. None of them have moved, and he's freaking out because he knows something's going to happen, and it's going to be bad, and these narrow hallways full of living suits of armor are going to come to life, and they're going to dogpile him, and that's going to be the end of Mattius. He just knows it. And I go, okay, you return to the T intersection. Going to the right, you'll go out the door, and going forward, you'll go to where you haven't been yet. And he goes straight on. And I say, you can hear the ring of a hammer on metal. And you can hear the bubble of an alchemy set, and you can also hear like the crack sparkle of flames in like a fireplace. It almost sounds like a forge, but it's bubbling and ringing, and there's a lot of different sound coming from this way. So he sneaks forward until he gets to the end, and the passage continues to the right. But as you get to this corner, you find an unusual set of armor, Mattius. It's much bigger than all the rest, and the helmet has massive holes in the upper parts of the temples, as though it were meant for horns. And he goes, he says, "Is this going to be like one of the living suits of armor?" And I go, "No, it doesn't have legs, but it has a kilt." And I go, "It has a breastplate, but it doesn't have a face. It's like the Juggernaut helmet. It like shows his face and nothing else. But again, it's got holes for horns, and the boots are massive, and there's a double axe sitting, leaning against the corner next to it, and it's covered with like runic marks and other like hardness enchantments." And he does like the knowledge arcana that he invested in for some reason. I don't know why. Probably just because he had so many damn skill points. But he does like the knowledge arcana to kind of identify what some of this stuff is. And I go, yeah, it's hardness. It's like armor +2 or armor +3, but it's meant for someone far larger than a man. And he goes, like a demon? Or like what has horns and can wear something this big? And I go, I don't know. Whatever it is, it's not wearing this armor right now. But there's not like enough of a physical structure. You know, the gauntlets don't have fingers in them, so it can't, even if it came to life, it couldn't like grasp a weapon and come after you. It's like a mannequin with a dress on it. You know, it's just a suit of armor, but it's huge and it's thick. And so, you know, wary of this, Mattius continues forward, sneaking along as he goes, rolling very high in the move silently department, because of course he does. And finally he comes across some movement, and he emerges, or rather, he comes to a stop in the archway of a workshop. And there's like steaming pipes going back and forth. There's gears in the walls turning, doing God knows what. There's a cauldron in the corner. There's some bright, like really hot metal bars waiting to be pounded on. There's tongs and tools sitting in piles everywhere. There's great big like mechanical arms hanging from chains from the ceiling as they're being mass produced. There's big long like inclined tables where partially made living suits of armor are laying in pieces waiting to be carved up with their runes and magic and stuff. And leaning over this like work table is a dwarven woman with basically like a blacksmith's outfit on. She's got, most of her is covered for the sake of heat protection. And the alchemy set next to her is bubbling and frothing as she's doing whatever it is that she's doing. She reaches over and kind of dabs one of her instruments into some gold powder, and she gets a hammer and she's like hammering runes on the inside of a breastplate. And when she's done, she picks the whole thing up with her gloved hands and she takes it over to this incomplete living armor, and she attaches it and she starts doing the clasps and making sure everything fits right so it doesn't rattle. And then she goes back to whatever she was doing over there to put together the next part. She's assembling a small army to give to the Oceanrim Guard, and these things are like 6.5 feet high, made of plate mail. Not very many cut purses and thieves like yourself, Mattius, would be able to stand up to one of these guys, much less the sheer numbers that you saw that are finished and standing out in the hallway there. Again, there's like 20 or 30 of these guys that are already done. And if she's going to approach the city guard with a contract, it could be like, 30 now and 300 on the way. They could easily cover the whole city in a blanket of metallic safety. And he's like, fuck. And again, he's looking around. He expects there to be at least one of these things like standing guard or like there for her protection. But no, he doesn't see any that are like active and moving and stuff. Besides the one that answered the door, there aren't any that are, I guess, like programmed at the moment, because all the ones in the hallway were finished but gave no reaction when there was an intruder. So they're probably waiting to be shipped, because when this dwarven lady takes them all down there, they're like, okay, what do you want this one to do? Okay, guard this corner. If anybody gets mugged, and then they do a certain number of runes for that. Or here, we'll put this one in front of a bank. If somebody tries to rob the bank, kick their asses. You put these kinds of runes in for that and stuff like that. They're not sentient. You have to give them like simple tasks or like a singular task to do. They have specifications. They don't get happy, they don't get sad, they just run programs, or they just run, like, rune sentences, whatever you tell them to do. And if you wanted one that could do anything, well, it would have to be as big as a house, because you would need the space to write all the runic stuff in it. So, when they're man-sized, they can only do one or two things. And, even that is going to be enough, because if Oceanrim gets covered with these fuckers, then that's going to be the end of the group. because you can't stab a robot. It doesn't work. And Mattius is like, okay, I pull my dagger and I start sneaking up on this lady. And I go, okay, Mattius, she's basically distracted. She's surrounded by bubbling and frothing, and she's hammering. She's making a lot of noise. She's kind of whistling while she works. She's sweating a little bit because she's been working all day. You know, the metal and the froth of the chemicals and all that stuff. It's making a lot of noise. I'm going to give you this bonus. And he rolls really high, and he sneaks up right behind her. And he goes, can I coup de grace her? And I go, no, not really, because coup de grace is like if they're asleep, or if they're tied up and helpless, or hypnotized, or where they would have no resistance whatsoever. You actually have to do damage to her, because a coup de grace is like where damage wouldn't matter anyway. It's like if you went to sleep, if your fighter went to sleep and had 80 health, and like a rogue snuck up and stabbed him with a dagger for 4 damage, he's not going to need to stab him 20 times. Just the one is enough. That's a coup de grace. And he goes, oh, okay. It's like, he gets ready to stab her. He's like right behind her where his shadow is coming up over this woman, but she's got like the goggles down over her eyes, and she's leaned in over her work. She can't hear him coming. And he lifts the dagger and he goes, oh, wait, no. I should see if she has like any accomplices or apprentices or anything, because if I stab her and somebody else pops up to finish these like automatons, then, you know, my mission would have been a failure anyway. So instead of like stabbing her in the back of the neck or something, he like grabs her and like puts the blade near her throat and goes, "Rah! You know, I've caught you. Does anybody else know how to make these armors? You will die this day if you don't tell me." And rolls the intimidate, and she squeals and she flails, and like her instruments go everywhere because she's completely caught off guard. And he goes, you know, tell me the truth. And he tries to like Batman her, like, where are the other drugs going? He's like, does anybody else know how to make these automata? Is it just you, dwarven woman? And she goes, yes, it's just me. Don't kill me. Oh, gods. And she's already got like the little cut on her neck, and it's dripping down the front of her blacksmith's outfit. And Mattius is like, well, good knowing you. And he gets ready to stab her. And he goes, no, wait, don't kill me. I'll enchant all your gear for free. I'm a very powerful enchantress. I'm a runecarver. And Mattius, his knife kind of stops. And I go, oh, wait. That's, you know, I have delved into one of Mattias's 2 weaknesses, you know, loot and women. And I go, oh, shit, I just put together the perfect storm. And the gears in my head are already turning to see how I can make this into more than just like a one-stab assassination. And when he hesitates, I know I've got him. So she goes, you know, I'm a runecarver. I could enchant all of your stuff and then, you know, disappear and you'd never see me again. And Oceanrim would never know what happened to me and all that stuff. She's complete coward. Like, she's probably peeing herself. His intimidation roll was really high. You know, he's one stab from victory for the group, but this is a very enticing offer. And he goes, it would be nice to have all my stuff enchanted, because he's got like the magic gloves, the magic boots, and like a magic cape, and like I think a ring and a necklace, but like he could get his leathers enchanted. He could get like his face mask enchanted. He's thinking about like all the armor slots, basically, that he could have more stuff built into for free. Yes, please. And he's about to achieve his prestige class anyway, and that hesitation is enough for me to kind of pull at the cracks of his defenses. And she goes, if you spare me, I'll even give you myself. And he goes, wait, what? And we are delving into Mattias's other weakness, which is women. And she goes, yes, you can take me upon my tool bench, and then I will enchant all of your things, and then I will disappear into the mountains. You will never see me again. Just please don't kill me. She's just like blubbering all over him at this point. And Mattius has got like the thumb and forefinger on his chin, like, I could get laid and get my stuff enchanted, and once she leaves, I could burn the place to the ground, get credit for the kill, she'd disappear, and the group would never be the wiser, and I'd get paid for it. And he's like, yes, this is what I want. So, it doesn't take long for this to kind of devolve into porn, so if you'll excuse me. The engineer kind of puts down her wrench and puts down her other tools that didn't go flying when he grabbed her. And she kind of like looks timidly over her shoulder at him as she kind of pulls down her pants, and he puts her over this tool bench. And I go, Mattius, you know this is basically a rape, right? She's bargaining for her life with her body. And he goes, yeah, but I'm already kind of dark side anyway, and this is probably the best deal I've ever heard for my character. I go, all right, you're chaotic evil now. You're a rapist. You're killing people for money. You're a rapist. You're a thief. You're a bastard. You are one of the worst evils that the medieval world can conjure without you like being a demon or something. He's like, all right, well, assassins are evil anyway. And I go, my God. And that's a weird kind of player to run into that's okay with committing a rape, even in a deal like this, but we'll not philosophize about that. Let's just continue the story. So Mattius, undoes his fly and gets up on her to start doing that. And by the time he's like penetrating her and getting his own on going, I start rolling sleight of hand when he's not paying attention. And, what is this woman bent over but a giant, bench or table covered with tools? And I go, well, what's there? She's got all of her screwdrivers, her Runecarver, her mallet, her giant wrench from putting all the stuff together. And while Mattius is like humping her, she reaches, grabs the wrench in both hands, and swings them up between her own legs to crush his scrotum up into his body, and he falls immediately, and pants around his ankles, falls immediately to one side in agony. And this woman like whirls around and like steps out of her pants because she's not going to have time to pull them back up. She's naked from the waist down. And, she kind of like puts the giant wrench over her shoulder like a sword and like pulls her goggles up for a second. And it's like she looks at you like you are the scum of the earth, which you basically are. And I go, roll initiative and give me like a -6, a -8. Because, the jewels, the boys, it's not going to be good, Mattius, when this is over. And so they roll initiative, and a fight breaks out in the middle of this alchemy lab. This workshop. The alchemy set goes flying. There's acid on the floor. Mattius steps in it. It eats right through his boot into the sole of his foot. He grabs his dagger again and pulls on her like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. I was sent to kill you. And rushes in to like stab this woman, but she's got like the baseball swing with the giant wrench going on, and this is like a big dwarven wrench, so it's like as like half as long as she is tall. It's a big weight. It may as well be like a two-handed mace to belt him over the head and send him crashing into all these like armor and robot parts. And he grabs like one of the hanging arms that's hanging by a chain and uses the hand to pull himself up. He like jabs her in the side. It's like, so they're having this fight with no pants on, let's face it, because hers are over there and he'd already pulled his down, so he kind of kicked them off. They're both naked from the waist down. This is the dumbest fight I've ever seen in my life. And they trade blows for a while, just kind of breaking stuff and sending robot parts flying. She picks up like a small faceplate thing, and she throws her goggles and then like slams one of the helmets on herself. She's apparently got heavy armor training, so her AC goes up. And then when Mattius is recovering from something else, she shoves her hand into a gauntlet and shoves her other hand into a gauntlet. Like these were regular armor pieces before she started putting runes inside them, so they still work. So the longer the fight goes on, the more like it's like one of the Iron Man movies where like the pieces of the Iron Man suit just kind of come in one piece at a time. Her AC just kind of climbs and climbs and climbs until Mattius grabs one of the helmets and finally just like rings her bells right over the head, like helmet against helmet, and she goes down stunned. And he goes, okay, that's enough of that. You know, the fires are already rising from the alchemy set that got thrown on the floor. So he runs over while she's stunned and just like stabs her in the throat. Like this is the assassination. He just stabs her in the throat, and she limpens upon the ground as a puddle of red grows about her. And you know, he makes sure that she's not moving anymore. And he sheathes his dagger, and he's like, there's really not anything to loot from in here. And he looks around. Oh, there's a couple of potions on another table of who knows what. They're alchemical ingredients, but he could probably sell them off for something. So he stuffed those in his bag. The fire is spreading throughout the room, and goodness knows if there's something in here that's going to explode. So he leaves her for dead on the floor. And all the acids and different chemicals are slowly spreading, as is the fire upon them. So he figures that's going to be enough to take care of this workshop. And he runs out into the hallway. You know, this is the part where all the armors come to life and kick my ass. He's running down the hallway while the smoke travels behind him, and you don't want to inhale anything when somebody spills their chemistry set. So he wants to get out before the smoke overtakes him. But he escapes unmolested as he kind of rushes out into the woods outside the bunker door. And he leaves the bunker door open. He's like, I don't want the flames to like choke themselves out from a lack of oxygen. So I just leave the door open. And smoke pours out into the sky as this magical workshop starts to go up in flames. And then the flames turn blue as they rush over like the finished suits of armor, because there's like blood and ancient tree sap and magic ink and stuff from all these different like runes and magical algebra that's carved into the inside of these things. They're basically like popping like so many pimple grenades, tearing out the hallway, making things collapse. And Mattius books it for the forest, you know, kind of clenching himself and like running at half speed because the boys are not happy, until he gets a safe distance away. And I go, Mattius, you didn't take like any kind of trophy, like her head or her hand or a signet ring. Like, how are you going to prove that she's dead? And he goes, dude, you know, that column of smoke is going to be like 1,000 feet high. I'm sure they'll realize that she's dead. And I go, yeah, you're probably right. They're going to be able to see that from Oceanrim and know that something's up. So, with no pants and no underwear, Mattius escapes into the forest, and eventually he has to like go through his bag and put on some of like his regular travel clothes. And I go, Mattius, you're going to be going at half speed for a while, and we're going to subtract 2 from your constitution forever. And he goes, really? Why? And he goes, you got nailed in the balls with a giant wrench. And it's like, constitution's what I get my health from, is that right? And he's whatever level. I think he had like a +2 to constitution, so he lost his level ×2 in health forever. So it was like a really bad punishment straight out of the gate. It's like, why would you do that? That kind of cripples my character. It's like, you're a rapist. That's what you get. You know, you tried to freaking force yourself on this woman, and you paid the price for it. You're lucky to be alive, you know, because something big and iron like that could be like a D8 or a D10. You know, you might be sterile. I'm not sure. I haven't decided yet. It's like, oh, God. But yeah, he's all bruised up and purple in the worst places. Like, the boys have not yet dropped down again yet, so he he has to rest by a river and like straddle a smooth river rock that's cold to kind of put ice on the wound and kind of sit there with his face in his hands for hours before he's able to move again. It's like, Mattius, you suffered a serious like a stat injury, which is very rare in D&D. The only time other than this kind of stuff would be like if you got your hand cut off, your dexterity would go down, or if you got zapped with a certain kind of ray, you know, your strength would go down. Enfeeblement. If you got like enfeebled, your stats would go down. You got nailed in the balls, I'm taking away some of your constitution. Given like you took like 3/4 of your health. He had to like roll to not pass out from catastrophic damage. I was like, -2 constitution forever. And you're chaotic evil, by the way, because you're a fucking rapist. So, deeper into darkness does Mattius the Prowler go, but mission accomplished. So he stays on his rock for a while, like mourning his jewels for a bit, and then he makes camp by the river and stays there to kind of recover for a day or so. And he said he was going to be gone about a week. And when he is able to get around again, he makes his way back to Oceanrim. And again, it takes 3 days. And moving at half speed, I guess it would have taken about 6 days. So gosh, I guess he got back late, now that I think about it. Or maybe he recovered enough to move. Probably so. So he gets back in 3 or 4 days, give or take, from his injuries. And he makes it all the way back to the gates of Oceanrim. And I say, Mattius, there's somebody unusual in the crowd. Like, as soon as he emerges into, like, the commerce district, there's somebody huge and unusual in the crowd. And he goes, what is it? And I say, there's an armored minotaur in the crowd. And he goes, what? And I said, and he has something of yours in his hand. It's a belt with an M inscribed on the front, and on the inside of the belt buckle. And he goes, "Is my name?" And I go, "Is your name?" The giant armor set that was in there with the engineer was Minotaur armor, and you probably killed his boss, friend, girlfriend, whatever, and left her to die. And he's probably been like right behind you for a few days now. He's got your name. He's like, oh God. He's like, he's looking around in the crowd, like shouting, who is this Mattius the Prowler? Tell me where he is, blah, blah, blah. Like the city guard is starting to take notice. He's like, and Minotaurs are not considered monsters in this setting. They're more like a seafaring race. You can hire them. You can see like pirate crews that are all Minotaurs, or tradesmen that are like tough as knuckles to deal with and things like that. So they're considered one of the sentient races you can hang out with. But he's got Mattius's belt because he took it off when he made to mount the engineer, and kicked off his pants when the fight started. So the belt and the pants were left behind. And being the egotistical guy that he is, he had an M on the front and his name inscribed on the inside. So, who is this Mattius the Prowler? I will find him. And, so-and-so, my friend so-and-so is, I don't even remember her name. The engineer is dead. There's been a murder. I will find this person and crush his skull between my massive hands. And, he's looking through the crowd, and I go, Mattius, he's basically looking for, like, a guilty face. And he goes, no! And I pick up the 2d10, and I go, oh, yes. And I go, well, I'll put you at, like, a 1% chance. And I throw the 2d10. Doesn't see Mattius in the crowd, because of course not. There's so many people there. But, unfortunately, Mattius... as we've said many times before, has slept with enough barmaids that one of those barmaids is in the crowd. And she, of course, recognizes Mattius. And when this Minotaur runs around, like, shaking his belt around, going, "Mattius the Prowler, where are you?" Her eyes slide over to Mattius, who's like, "No!" And the Minotaur sees where she's looking, and they lock eyes, and a split second is all it takes for the Minotaur to be like, "You! Dead!" And he throws the belt into the gutter and he pulls his, like, double axe and starts charging after Mattius. And Mattius is like, "No!" And he takes off running through the streets, like, fruit carts are getting knocked over, giant freaking vegetable displays are getting knocked down. "My cabbages!" And, like, barrels full of fish are going everywhere. He's knocking things down as he goes to try and slow this guy down. He pulls the flint and tinder and he lights this cart full of hay into flames, and then kicks out one of the wheels to knock it over and make a wall of flames. But this Minotaur will not be stopped. So while he's charging through the fire, Mattius throws the serrated dagger, the one he got from the other thief during his initiation test. And it jabs the Minotaur in the side for a little bit of damage, and he pulls it and he throws it to one side. "It'll take more than that, you motherfucker! Come here!" And if you know your D&D weapons, serrated weapons cause bleeding damage. Now, bleeding damage doesn't mean much, except that it will do a little bit of damage every round. So the longer Mattius stays away from the Minotaur, the longer he has to bleed, because bleeding damage doesn't stop until you either get healed by magic or use a med kit. Recovering 1 point of damage is enough, but he's not going to stop and, like, slap a Band-Aid on himself. He's got Mattius in his crosshairs right now. So Mattius gets chased, like, for blocks. Like, they're just leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. And the city guard is, like, blowing their whistles, running after him. All this destruction, this fucking Minotaur. My God, who is that he's chasing? We don't know. And Mattius gets chased into an alleyway. It's a dead end between 3 buildings. And he's like, I climbed the wall. And I go, "Mattius, it's a sheer wall." He's like, "I try it," and he throws the d20, rolls a 1. So he scrambles up, and then he slides down. And the Minotaur appears at the mouth of the alleyway. He's like, "You! Dead!" And he, like, scrapes his hoof a couple of times. Like, Mattius is like, "I try to freaking climb the wall again." And he rolls, like, a 7. And I'm like, "Mattius, it's a sheer wall. You would need, like, a 50 or better. It's like swimming up a waterfall. There's no place for you to grab. There are no windows, no nothing." And Mattius never carried around, like, a grappling hook or anything. He was more about acrobatics and climbing skills. But finally the Minotaur, like, charges at him. He's like, "I'm gonna be a Mattius pancake!" And since it's the Minotaur's turn, I have to roll out the bleeding damage again. And again, they've been going across streets through obstacles, like a little bit of bleeding damage here, a little bit of bleeding damage here. And in the middle of his charge, he takes 2 points of damage and falls on his face, bled out, dead. And he skids forward until, like, the horns are on either sides of Mattius's knees, and he's just like, "Ugh." So he bled out from the side from the serrated dagger. And finally the city guard get in there like, "We found him. He's dead." He's like, "Sir, are you okay? Sir, what happened?" Like, "I don't know." And Mattius, of course, rolls over their sense motive because he's very good at lying. It's like, "I don't know." And their racism kind of kicks in. It's like, "Fucking Minotaurs messing up our city streets, and why don't they stay on their boats?" Rah, rah, rah. And stuff like that. So they instantly believe him, and they don't think he's actually done anything. The belt is long gone. Lord knows where that is. And, curse that barmaid. Is like, "Why would she give me away like that? Why did you give her anal so many times? That's not cool." Shut up. Your sexual history is going to keep biting you in the ass. why you should settle on one woman because, a woman scorned is like, I paid her. It's like, shut up. She she never forgave you for that. She and we go back and forth for a while. But, the city guard don't see anything that Mattius has done wrong. But this Minotaur, charged down the city street, blowing things up and knocking over, my cabbages and lighting things on fire. They didn't see any of this directly, except that Mattius was trying to escape him. So whatever sort of confrontation they'd had was over now, and Mattius was able to go scot-free. So Mattius, of course, confirmed the death of the engineer with the group and got his 500 gold and went to go shopping for more stuff. So, I guess that is where we will stop for today. That was kind of the end of that adventure. He just went to go shopping some more and completed his mission. He became an assassin. He got his prestige class. So he spent a long time upgrading and learning what new things an assassin could do. So we'll get into that on the next episode of D&D Stories. Keep gaming. Hi guys, T here. Remember to hit that like button for me on your way out. If you'd like to see artwork and maps from my gaming table, check out the D&D Stories Facebook page. Also, I have a Patreon if you'd like to toss a few gold pieces into your humble bard's hat. Links in the description below. Keep gaming!